In Colombia, due to popular pressure, the health system reform bill promoting the further commercialization of healthcare in the country. Mexico received a new batch of 585,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine against the coronavirus. Palestine continues under siege by Israeli airstrikes and attacks. From the headquarters of teleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. In Colombia, due to popular pressure, the health system reform bill promoting the further commercialization of healthcare in the country was archived this Wednesday by a large majority in the Senate and House of Representatives committees in charge of its discussion. The controversial bill, introduced by the Radical Change Party on July 20th and supported by Iván Duque's government, was discarded with 16 votes in favor and 3 against, in response to the widespread rejection of the move as seen on the streets of Colombia's main cities for the past 22 days. The neoliberal bill proposed the complete privatization of the health system, the creation of sector conglomerates, the closure of public hospitals, as well as mechanisms for the denial of services and medical treatment to the most vulnerable sectors of the population. Likewise, it left decisions regarding whether to fund medical treatments or not to the Finance Ministry. In Colombia, the nationwide demonstrations against the neoliberal policies of President Iván Duque continued, as well as the violent repression. According to local media, on Tuesday morning, the demonstrations passed without incidents in the main cities of the country. In the afternoon, some road blockades were reported in Bogotá, Medellín, and Ibagué. Also, temporary workers in the education sector staged pacific protests in Bogotá. Also in Cundinamarca, several demonstrations were reported in the station Portal de las Américas. As it was announced, indigenous communities mobilizations known as Minga joined the protest in Medellín. Since the beginning of the protests in Colombia on April 28th, more than 2,800 cases of police violence have been reported in the country. According to the NGO Temblores that monitors the police brutality cases in the country, between April 28th and 17th, 384 Colombians have been victims of direct law enforcement violence during the demonstrations, and 146 gunshot wounded. Also, the organization reports 43 murders perpetrated by public forces and 1,139 arbitrary detentions. 33 protesters have eye injuries due to different police shooting at demonstrators' faces. Temblores also reports 18 women have been sexually assaulted and 5 people suffered gender-based violence. In Colombia, more sectors joined the national strike that began on April 28th, among them the truck drivers. One of the issues that require negotiation is the cost of fuel. Colombia is one of the cost per gallon of fuel, and diesel is the most consumed fuel by this union. The issue directly affects the profits. On the other hand, there are the tolls that accumulate more profits for concessionaires and the government, who obtain money for the roads use. In Colombia, it is normal to find highway tolls in distances of less than 30 kilometers, with an average cost up to $24 for the category of the so-called tractor trucks. An example of this is the Bogotá-Buenaventura trip, with a cost of $350.
It is a complicated issue right now because the people are asking in a certain way that the government help us cope with the economy. We are in a bad situation, many tolls, very expensive fuel, very cheap shipping. We are doing what we can to have survived, and the government does not want to have a dialogue.
Brazilian Environment Minister Ricardo Salles has been suspended from his duties, as the Supreme Court authorized the search of his home as part of an investigation into illegal timber exports. The police operation was authorized by Supreme Court Judge Alexandre de Moraes, who also authorized federal police access to Sales bank records, as well as immediate suspension of a decree issued in February 2020 that regularized more than 8,000 shipments of illegally exported timber between 2019 and 2020. He also ordered the removal of 10 people from positions of trust in the ministry and the environmental regulatory body, including its president, Eduardo Bim. Sales has been criticized by indigenous and environmental organizations for his harmful environmental policy, which has led to an increased deforestation. On Tuesday, Peru's public prosecutor's office defended the accusation filed against former President Alberto Fujimori and former health ministers to investigate forced sterilizations from 1995 to 2000 and denied that the case is time-barred, as the former president's defense claims. The prosecutor in charge of the forced sterilization case, Pablo Espinosa, reiterated that the Peruvian justice system must continue with the investigation. He also rejected another argument of the former president's defense, according to which Fujimori will not be responsible as the perpetrator by means of the sterilizations, while emphasizing that the right to justice must prevail. Along with Fujimori, former ministers Eduardo Young, Marino Costa Bauer, and Alejandro Aguinaga are accused of serious injury followed by death against 5 women and serious injury against 1,300 people. The 4 former officials are accused of forcing almost 350,000 women and 25,000 men to undergo sterilization processes through an alleged government plan to reduce the birth rate in rural areas and indigenous communities in the country. More news coming up after the break. Stay with us.
It is our duty to reverse the damage we cause to the planet. Let's recover our natural ecosystems with actions in defense of the environment. Let's keep fighting for a greener world. Wednesdays, only on teleSUR. Every year, thousands of people leave their homeland to reach new horizons. A reality of those people who struggle for their freedom. Know the diverse causes of those who live between borders. Thursdays, only on teleSUR.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR.
Welcome back to From the South. Mexico received a new batch of 585,000 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine against the coronavirus this Wednesday. The shipment was the 51st to arrive in the country, which has now received over 12.6 million doses of the Pfizer vaccine. Another batch of 585,000 doses is due to arrive on Thursday, and a further 114,000 doses on Friday. According to President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, to date, Mexico has acquired a total of more than 30.2 million doses of different COVID-19 vaccines. Argentina registered on Tuesday over 35,000 new cases of COVID-19 and 745 deaths, an absolute record since the pandemic began in March 2020, at a time when the government is evaluating the reinforcement of restrictions to avoid the collapse of the health system. President Alberto Fernández announced that his government will accelerate the vaccination plan, which so far covered 17% of the population, but also asked the public to follow the social distancing measures to avoid contagion. Occupancy of intensive care units reached 72%.
Today we have sad news, frankly because of the number of contagions, that should call us to reflection and, once and for all, understand that there are many siren songs that speak of the need to be free and that freedom they invoke leads us to contagions and death. I ask you not to lower your guard. Vaccines are arriving. We are going to accelerate the vaccination process, but we also need our conscience.
And Argentinian people react to the new record of COVID-19 contagions and fatalities in the country.
People don't look after themselves. None of us take care of ourselves, and we want to go out and travel. I traveled the first days of mobility restrictions, and now you travel as you wish. It is impossible to control people. People have no control. They have no notion of the amount of people dying.
It scares me, I'm telling you the truth. It scares me because tomorrow something could happen to me or it could happen to other people. So what I want is for the contagion to go down, because if it doesn't, it seems to me that we are all going backwards.
And McDonald's will raise wages at U.S. company-owned restaurants and hire an additional 10,000 workers, the latest corporate response to a labor crunch as the economic reopening accelerates. Employers nationwide have reported trouble filling open positions as COVID-19 restrictions are eased, allowing businesses to resume operations, but some people still face challenges returning to work. The fast food chain said it plans to lift hourly wages for about 36,500 workers by an average of 10%, boosting the entry-level range to at least $11 per hour, while shift managers will make at least $15 to $20. On Wednesday, the Moroccan police closed the Tarajal border crossing in the autonomous city of Ceuta and interrupted the massive inflows of asylum seekers to Spain. Morocco closed the border after more than 8,000 undocumented people arrived in Spain since the early hours of Monday morning, half of whom have already been returned to their country. The flow of entries through Tarajal beach was interrupted, although there are still people in the other side of the border trying to reach Ceuta. In parallel, many of the migrants who arrived in the last hours are still returning to Morocco, and at least 4,800 of them have already returned to their country, as confirmed by Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. In India, the damage caused by Cyclone Tauktae are quite extensive. So far, 33 people have died and 89 are missing. The Department of Meteorology said that the Cyclone Tauktae weakened to a depression and is stationed in southern Rajasthan, 60 kilometers southwest of Udaipur town, and forecasts light to moderate rains for the next few hours. Power outages were reported from a large number of villages, including hospitals assisting COVID-19 patients and oxygen plants. Battling extreme weather, the Indian Navy and Coast Guard had rescued so far 314 people on board of 2 barges that went adrift in the Arabian Sea, near Mumbai, hours before Cyclone Tauktae hit the Gujarat coast.
In recent years, I have never seen such a devastating cyclone in Mumbai. Before, there was a similar devastating cyclone in 1965, and for the first time since then, I have seen such a cyclone. People have suffered a lot of damage and they will have to struggle hard to come out of it.
More news in a minute. Join us again after this.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Sean todos muy bienvenidos a Vidas. Hay lugares donde el arte se unifica con el orgullo de los pueblos. Y esos lugares están llenos de colores, alegría, pasión, tradiciones, arraigo, valor y entrega.
Real Life. Fridays. Only on teleSUR. Who's moving the chessmen? What interests and motivate the actors behind each event? The board is deployed there. Critical Move investigates every event from Monday to Friday. Only on teleSUR.
En un mundo en constante movimiento, todos los días se generan nuevos sucesos y es necesario conocerlos. Nos preguntamos, ¿qué hay detrás de cada acontecimiento? ¿Cuáles son las consecuencias y cómo nos afectan? Ante estas preguntas, buscaremos poner el punto en la I.
Dot in the eye. Saturday, only on teleSUR.
Welcome back from the south. The Palestine people remains under siege by Israeli bombing and violent attacks, despite Israel's arguments saying it is only responding to Hamas actions. With more details, now we receive Al Mayadeen correspondent and teleSUR collaborator Ahmed Ghanem from Gaza.
For the 11th consecutive day, Israel continues its aggression on the Gaza Strip. And as you can see, look at these ongoing raids on populated civilian areas in the northwest of Gaza City. This bombardment now is an extension of an entire night in which the Gaza Strip witnessed successive raids on a number of civilian homes, as well as other real estate, infrastructure and sites that Israel supposedly claims belongs to the resistance. You're seeing this mushroom of smoke coming out from the center of these residential communities, proving Israel's lies and false claims that it is targeting resistance capabilities and missile bases. Dozens of wounded are the result of tonight's ongoing Israeli bombardment of Gaza, plus one person lost his life. Among the wounded are a large number of children under continuous Israeli shelling in the Strip. This is Gaza, on the morning of the 11th day of Israel's relentless aggression. And Gaza, for its part, continues to confront this brutal aggression by launching its missiles at the Zionist occupation settlements in response to its ongoing crimes against unarmed civilians. From Al Mayadeen for teleSUR, Ahmed Ghanem, Gaza Strip.
Thousands of demonstrators marched in the capital of Mauritania to denounce the aggression perpetrated against the Palestinian people by Israel, a protest organized at the call of the government and opposition parties and civil society organizations. The march took place without incident from the city center to the headquarters of the United Nations Development Programme in the Mauritanian. In a text delivered to the UNDP officials in Nouakchott at the end of the march, the organizers urged the UN to assume responsibilities in the face of this massacre of children, women and the elderly and punish Israeli criminals. As part of the international community support, France presented a draft resolution to members of the United Nations Security Council calling for a ceasefire between Israel and Gaza. French President Emmanuel Macron's office publicly denounced their position on this following a meeting with his Egyptian counterpart, who is currently visiting Paris, and Jordan's King Abdullah II, who joined via video conference. In addition to demanding an immediate end to the violence, the core of the resolution's text stresses the urgent need for humanitarian assistance to Gaza. The French move surprised the United States, which has 3 times in the past week blocked joint statements with similar messaging, insisting that such measures will not help advance a ceasefire. In Chile, the Palestinian community protested in Santiago against Israeli airstrikes on Gaza Strip, as well as the military occupation and ethnic cleansing policies. More than 1,000 people met at the Club Palestino football headquarters in eastern Santiago to demonstrate against Israel's relentless bombing campaign. The Palestinian community in Chile is the largest outside the Middle East, with more than 300,000 people. They joined the demonstrations that have taken place around the world in support of the hundreds of Palestinian civilian victims who have died in these attacks. Chile recognized Palestine as a state in 2011, supporting its entrance to UNESCO.
So that's why we are here today, because we have to stand up. We are tired of the silence, tired of the Israeli occupation, of an illegitimate state. So that's why we stand up. Palestinian brothers, Gaza resists, Palestine exists.
What is happening there is so terrible that I have to move and get all the people screaming to stop what is happening. We deserve to live, and we are human beings. We are not animals, and we are not people who want war. What we are looking for is only peace. Peace for the girls and boys who are dying every day.
In South Africa, the West Coast black business community in Saldanha Bay, a Western Cape province in the country, came together to create a professional body to better respond to opportunities presented by the harbor's industrial development zone.
This community in Saldanha Bay organized themselves to form a professional body called Black Business Alliance in order to respond with capacity to opportunities presented by the establishment of the Industrial Development Zone at the Saldanha Bay Harbor. What is exciting are the reflections of these business people who thrived against the narrative that sought to indicate inexperience, low quality, and other negatives. Here to tell us more about the IDZ is Kashifa Bukas, CEO of the Saldanha Bay IDZ.
The world is changing. Global markets are shifting. And with the onslaught of the pandemic, new ideas and new ways of doing traditional engineering and services must be found. Through the Innovation Campus, space is being created to bring these new ideas to market and respond to these shifting local and global market trends affecting business and society.
Here to tell us more is Sammy Claassen, spokesperson and one of the founding members of the Black Business Alliance.
Started on the 18th of July 2018 in Saldanha Bay. We started it, and it was started because there was a need for an organized forum that can organize local black businesses for Saldanha Bay, and that was precisely to put in place an infrastructure program and a zone that will provide services to the oil and gas sector.
Representing the business community of the Saldanha Bay region is Tennyson Andrews from Tuere Contractors and Enrico Adams of Jacqua Marine.
We're mainly working in the insurance industry in the areas of Cape Town, West Coast, in the Boland regions, where we're doing maintenance work for insurance companies like Absa Insurance, Nedbank Insurance, Hollard, Old Mutual, Brights, and others. We've also ventured recently into the commercial space, where we do commercial sites for GVK Siazama, especially in the Saldanha Bay area.
Our job is the subsea work, where we are removing rails and installing them by doing core drilling and installing them again, and putting anodes, rubbing blocks, winch block and end stoppers in the Saldanha Bay slipway.
For teleSUR News in Cape Town, I'm Stephen Taylor. The West Coast Black...
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. And also, if you feel so inclined, please join us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For teleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.